Boy, do we all need to let go of stuff, myself included. And you know what? Stuff comes up all the time. Even when you think you've let go of stuff, things kind of pop up in your world that let you know, maybe not. Or it's a constant thing you got to keep just bringing your attention and your awareness to it. Okay, somebody's on. When you hop on, I'd love to hear from you. Just let me know that you're here. I will share that today has been a trying day, and there was definitely stuff that I needed to be aware of to let go. I had one of those angry, frustrating experiences with retail. And I had ordered a bunch of furniture for my son from IKEA. My son is moving into a house, and I ordered a bunch of furniture. And the furniture was delivered even though I canceled the order. Hey, Cindy, how's it going? Good to see you, or good to see you on here. I was just saying I had to order some furniture for Larson, my oldest, who was moving into a house, and IKEA, during the whole COVID thing, dropped off the furniture, but I had canceled the order. And I was calling and couldn't get through to anybody. They kept saying, at this time, due to COVID, we're not able to answer. So I was getting more and more agitated. Fast forward, that was back in June, July. It's now November, and I finally got through to somebody, and they said, well, we're not doing any pickups because of COVID, so you have to bring it to the store, and the store is an hour away. And let me tell you, we're talking bedroom furniture, a lot of stuff. And I was so angry, and I'm yelling at the woman on the phone, and I'm basically taking my stuff, my frustration, and I'm dumping it on this poor woman who's just answering the phone. I'm frustrated with IKEA. I'm frustrated at their customer service. But I am letting it amp me up and get so angry that I am now spewing that anger on this poor woman. So I had to drive down today. And my point is, stay with me here because I will let you know what the letting go part of this is. I get down there and I have a truck full of really heavy bed frames, mattress, bookshelf, all sorts of stuff, and it's heavy. And they have one of those little carts. Well, if you saw me trying to unload the back of the truck, it was by myself. My kids were all doing stuff, and my husband couldn't come, and this was the only day. I had to clear out my gym because I had people coming, and the stuff was all in my gym. Anyway, I was so frustrated. You should have seen me wrestling this stuff, and I'm proud, and I'm like, I got it. I don't need any help. And the cart is moving, and I can't get the stuff on the cart, and I'm getting more frustrated and more frustrated. Finally, this woman comes by and helps me. Anyway, I finally get up there to return the stuff, and I was ready to I was so frustrated, but this is where I had to let go. I had to tune in and realize, okay, you're frustrated because this is not what you expected. This is not what you expected to do today. This is not what you wanted to deal with. This whole scenario of dealing with this furniture is not what you wanted. You got to let the anger go because it is what it is. And you're returning the stuff and it is what it is. So I literally had to do that today to tell myself I have to, for my own well-being, but also for the well-being around people around me, I have to let this anger go. I have to let this frustration go. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not disappointed in IKEA, and I might just write a little thing at the Better Business Bureau because it just was the customer service was really, 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 really bad. But again, the anger that I was holding on to that was disrupting my flow, my ease, my balance, that's what I had to let go of today. So hopefully, does that resonate? Anybody in that kind of situation where you've just been so angry and so frustrated and you're starting to project that onto everybody around you and everybody's like, what the hell, man? And then, then you get in this shame cycles. You're like, oh, I totally just bit that person's head off and I didn't mean to. And I'm so sorry and blah, blah, blah. Or you get in the cycle of making excuses because this happened to me. So the victim, right? It's like this vicious cycle. So these are the kinds of things that I find really, really important for us to just pay attention to, just to be aware of these feelings and emotions that we tend to attach to. That's what I want to talk about today, is the whole, when things happen that are unexpected in our life, because let's face it, that's what creates stress in our life, or things that happen that are unexpected, or that we, or things that we didn't want to happen that happen. Those are the things that can throw us completely out of balance, and that can make us just tense up and create stress in our lives. So then we find ourselves in this vicious cycle where we're either miserable, or we're projecting to the future, or we're trying to please somebody, or we're trying to do something or fix something for somebody else. And these are the things that just create this cycle of worry, anxiety, not enough, all this stuff that hopefully we can start to let go of. Now, as I said, letting go doesn't mean you completely let go of it. The more you are aware of things that are disruptive to your life, thoughts, feelings, emotions, habits, patterns. And what I mean by habits and patterns, I mean things like trying to fix things, okay, or trying to please other people, or trying to get somebody else's approval, or letting other people determine your worth. These are things that create stress in our life because we're trying to control things that we have no control over. And that's a big one. I'm looking here, and it seems like I lost Cindy, and I don't know if anybody's here, but I'm going to keep talking because this will be recorded. I know it's a tricky time. This is when I polled people. People said this is the time that they were available. So hence we're doing the evening lives. I'm definitely open to changing the time if there's a better time for people. Anyway, it's interesting because I was really thinking about the whole fixing thing. And that's one of the things that I've worked hard on letting go of. And it's funny because when I'd have these, anybody in a relationship, and I even get this with I've caught myself in conversations when I'm listening to one of my kids, and I try immediately to go into fix it mode, and then I'll have to it's the awareness, right? The letting go starts with the awareness. So the awareness of, okay, wait a minute, they're just expressing to me how they're feeling. They don't necessarily need me to fix this. Hello, Jessica. No problem. I get that it's time for bed for babies. So totally get that. Anyway, I completely have caught myself when I'm listening to my kids kind of go on. And I also catch them kind of start to roll their eyes and glaze over when I'm trying to get into that fix-it mode. When I'm not just listening to them, but I'm trying to fix their problem. And I get like that when I'm wanting to talk to my husband or talking to somebody. Hey, Julie, how are you? When I'm talking to my husband, and I'll express to him something that's bothering me or something on my mind, and he'll start telling me the things that I need to do. And sometimes we don't want somebody to fix it. We just want somebody to hear us, listen, be present with us. That's all we need 9 times out of 10 is somebody to just listen to us. So that's something that through creating that awareness, I will recognize, okay, I don't need to fix this. I'll give you a situation, a scenario. And this ties into the fixing, the pleasing, the expectations of others, the things that are not expected. So yesterday, my 12-year-old son woke up crying, and he said, Mom, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, what? What do you mean you can't do this anymore? What's going on, buddy? And he said, Mom, this online learning is killing. It's slowly sucking the life out of me. I can't do it anymore. I'm bored out of my mind. I'm not learning anything, and I can't do it. Now, the old me would have completely reacted to that and would have gone into fix-it mode. I would have gotten angry at the fact that we're remote learning. I would have tried to, get on, do everything I can to rally the troops, go into warrior mode and go into that fight to try to get the kids back in school and blah, blah, blah. But the new me had to be like, okay, well, we are remote learning right now. I don't have control over what the school decides. I can potentially influence what the school decisions are. I could email the teachers. I could email the principal. I can email the school committee and the superintendent, the people making the decisions. But it's not necessarily, I can't change what's going on right now. But what I can do is I can be present for my son. I can hear my son and recognize this is really tough. He's a very bright kid, and I'm seeing this light inside of him slowly dim. And I see it in a lot of people with the remote learning. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. That's the letting go part. I can't control how my kids are learning. I can only control how I support them through the learning process. I can only control my expectations of my kids during this time. And you know what? His grades aren't what they should be, but that's where I have to really not get caught up in that other people's expectations, societal expectations. I have to not get caught up in that worry cycle of, oh, what does this mean for college and blah, 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 blah. And you see where I'm going? Like the projections and the projections. Because in this moment, my child is communicating to me that he's struggling and that it's hard for him to focus and stare at the screens. And I also know something about my child is that he needs to feel connected to the person that's teaching him. He needs to feel like that person cares and that person is putting effort in, especially if they want effort from him. Now, my oldest son was a total pleaser. He would have just shown up and done whatever he needed to do because he wanted to please and impress the teacher. My second son, he has major learning disabilities, and we're working through all of this. This is hard for him too, but he's advocating for himself, and he's saying, okay, this is what I need. That's what I've taught him. That's what we can control. How we show up for each other and how we show up for ourselves. We have to let go of the anger and the expectations of others. Does that make sense? Anybody here? Am I speaking in riddles, or does that make sense? We have to let go of worrying about what other people think, because we have to tune into what we need and where we are in the moment. This is the important part. This is the part about letting go that will help our stress. And letting go really is about stress management. It's about, see, what happens is when we get stressed, when we try to control things that are not in our control, when we feel like we have to fix everything for other people, or we have to please other people, or we get caught up in other people's judgment of us or expectations of us, then it causes stress in our lives because we're constantly worried about things outside of ourselves. And those are things that we have no control over. We cannot control other people. We can only control ourselves. So when we learn to let go of the need to please, when we learn to let go of the exterior expectations on us, we start to free up space for us to bring more things that we do love, for us to bring joy into our life, for us to flow a little bit better in that river of well-being, because we're not clinging so rigidly to control of things that we don't have control over, right? And then we're not bouncing from control to chaos constantly, like I talked about in the last video, when we're so caught up in trying to have our life go as we want it to go, instead of allowing our lives to unfold as they're meant to unfold, recovering and adjusting as we go. That creates so much stress because it's resistance. We're resisting whatever's coming that isn't what we expect it to be. We're resisting our kids being sad, right? Nobody's happy all the time. I get that all the time for so many parents when I say, like, what if I had a magic wand, what can I do for you? And 9 times out of 10, their desire is for their kids to be happy. We all want happy kids, but you know what? There are times where you need to be sad. There are times where you need things not to go right, because that's how you grow. That's how you appreciate, that's how you develop perspective. That's how you start to appreciate the things that are good in your life, or the moments that are full of joy. If things were great and wonderful all the time, it's like I think about the weather, right? Living in New England, our weather's all over the place. Because we just had really cold weather, we're having a warm spell right now where it's like 70 degrees today, and I can truly appreciate that because I had really chilly weather. So those other sides, right? The happy, sad, hot, cold, those are all counter experiences that help us appreciate what we have. So when we start letting go of what we're expecting things to be, we can start to open to appreciate what is, or to allow and accept what is. Hopefully that makes sense. Any questions here, guys? Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. I don't see questions, but I see that a couple of you guys are here. Awesome. It's interesting because one of the things that a lot of people talk to me about, or at least women, I see a lot of women really hard on themselves, their bodies, their appearances, right? I'm not the weight that I'd like to be, but you know what I've realized is some of those expectations that we have of what we want to look like are societal expectations. And for me, I really just want to be healthy. Like, I want to be healthy. I want my clothes to fit. Of course, I want to lose some pounds, of course. But I also recognize that when I have a lot of stress in my life, it completely disrupts my metabolism. Okay? So when I am stressed about what I'm eating, how much exercise I'm getting, and I'm not tuning into my body, that's going to throw my body into more stress. Because when I am working out like a fiend and I'm exhausted, I'm actually putting more stress on my body. When I am restricting what I'm eating, or I am so rigid in what I will eat, I actually can put more stress on my body. I completely messed up my metabolism when my son was going through chemotherapy. I just had a baby. I had a gym that I owned, and I was teaching classes. I was not sleeping very well. I was stressed out of my mind, obviously. And I was trying to lose the baby weight. And so I wasn't eating a ton. I also was so busy that I was so overtired that I just wasn't that hungry. But my metabolism got so out of whack that I still haven't properly recovered from it. And it's stress. And I see so many women in their 40s that come to me that have extra weight on them, that are absolutely obsessed about what they're eating. And then they get into this shame cycle when they eat things that they feel guilty about eating, or if they don't exercise to the intensity that they think they should be exercising. They get into this guilt cycle, which just feeds the stress, which further offsets the hormones. So again, this is where we have to just allow ourselves to have these moments where we're not perfect. We need to let go of that concept of doing everything perfectly, of having this certain appearance, of being a certain way. We have to really tune into, what do I need in this moment? Does that make sense? Because it just feeds that stress cycle. I mean, I'm all for people being healthy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying if you're overweight or your BMI is high and you know that your eating habits are out of whack, that you should just let it all go and just allow yourself. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, we are so hard on ourselves so often. Our thoughts in our head can be so stressful and so disruptive to our balance and our well-being. So when we find what we need to let go of is the judgment of ourselves, is the expectations of ourselves to be perfect or to do things all or nothing. Hopefully that resonates, because that's something that, just for us moms in particular, and again, that's one of those fix-it things, right? If we feel like things are out of balance in our life or in our diet, our exercise, we feel like we've got to fix it. And absolutely, but the first thing you can do is just be present with yourself and letting go of the drive and the intensity. because that's resistance. That's creating more stress in our lives. So when we can just sort of back up a little bit and tune in, and if we're tired, allow ourselves to be tired and maybe dial down that workout. Just stretch or walk. Or you know what? If we're hungry and we're craving something, have a little bit of it and don't feel guilty. Right? I mean, these are tricky concepts, and these are things that I work one-on-one with people on. My Inside Out Healing program is a big part of this awareness, like being aware and tuning into your body and being present, and how to reset your nervous system. Those kinds of things. Those will all help with those thoughts that we get in our head, and those sort of the vicious cycle of the thoughts and the belief systems. But a lot of the things that through awareness we can start to shift and let go of are those expectations of ourself and our expectations of other people, like our kids. How many of us really take the time to get to know who our kids are and what they need? A lot of times we have these expectations of who our kids are going to be. But those are ours. We have to let that go, because that's not our kids necessarily. But when we can really tune in and know who our kids are, then we can allow their lives to unfold as they're meant to be, accepting who they are. Right? Instead of resisting and trying to force them to be something that they're not. I mean, I have seen this with my kids. I have seen this with other kids. And one of the things that I really try to do with my kids is try to make sure that they know who they are, that they own who they are, and who they're not. That's an important thing too, because sometimes we're trying to be things that we're just not. Even as adults, like I have a hard time pretending. If I'm upset with somebody, or if somebody's hurt my feelings, or if somebody's done something that bothers me, it's really hard for me to just put on a smile and pretend everything's great. I can't pretend. I'm not a pretender. And that sometimes can be hard for people, because they're like, what the? But I'm also the kind of person that if you ask me what's up, I'll tell you. I don't beat around the bush. And sometimes that's not something that gets me invited to a lot of parties. But no, I'm just kidding. But that is who I am. Like, I can't pretend. I got to accept that about myself. I certainly can soften things, but I have to let go of thinking that I need to please everybody around me by being somebody different than who I really am. And that alone has given me so much freedom and opened up so much space for me to truly figure out and get in touch with and accept who I am. Hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to share with you, I had written down this thing just about like this vicious cycle that we get into, and maybe this will resonate with you. But when something happens, an experience happens, that experience, or maybe something that happens to our kids, or something that happens to us, or something that happens with friends, might trigger something in us. Trigger an emotion or a reaction in us because of our own personal experiences. And then that starts to trigger the story in our head, or this thought in our head. And then those stories and thoughts get triggered by a belief system that we have. Whether that belief system is that I'm not enough, I'm not important. Whether that belief system is I have to be perfect, I have to do everything for everybody. Or that belief system is that we can't trust people. Whatever it is, whatever the belief system is, sometimes experiences will trigger that in us and we don't even know it. And then that trigger starts to get this story in our head, where we start going down this story and we start making up a perception of what's happening, which 9 times out of 10 is not true, but we think it's true in our head. And then we start that triggers that stress response in us. And then what happens when we're stressed? We try to get control of things, right? Then we try to control this and control that. For example, we start telling ourselves stories in our heads about other people to make us feel better, right? But that will also stress a relationship, because then that brings tension to a relationship. Or we try to again, like trying to get the control situations. But then when we try to control situations and things don't go as we want, which 9 times out of 10 it doesn't, because we can't control certain things that other than ourselves, we bounce over to that river of chaos. And then while we're in that chaos, we start spinning and the stories get even louder. But then those stories become projections to the future. And then we start worrying. And then that worry cycle creates more stress. You see where I'm going with this? This is what we have to sort of stop, take a pause, and just reconnect and say to ourselves with that story or that thought in our head, this is a Byron Katie thing. Is this true? Is this thought true? Is it always true? And then we have to think, when might this not be true? So another thing we have to look at is this mine? So when I'm getting like thinking of my son, right? He's upset about school. He doesn't want to do stuff. And I start getting spun up and I start, I have to stop myself from going into warrior mom mode and talking to the teachers and all this. That's where I have to step back and I have to say, this is his, right? He's the one that's got to be accountable to the teachers. He's the one that's got to do his work. He's the one that has to make peace with this somehow and has to figure out a way. And I can be there for him, but it's not mine, right? I can't or me going off and at IKEA being all angry and, putting the stuff in the cart and getting pissed off that people aren't helping me or whatever. Those people might think, what did I do? What did I do to that woman? And you know what? It's not theirs, it's mine. That's my own anger that I am just tossing on other people, right? Or when you're doing something and you feel like people are looking at you disapprovingly. Let's talk about mom shaming for a minute. How many times do you do something with your kids? For example, by me not worrying about my son's grades or allowing him to take a mental health day, there might be some mom shaming on some ends, whether it's from teachers or other moms, thinking that I'm not doing the right thing. But you know what? What's right for you might not be right for me. What's right for your child might not be right for my child, right? So that's where you have to really tune into yourself and what the messages are that you're getting. And you have to just own it and not worry about what other people think or what other people say or what the expectations are. Like my son said to me, it doesn't matter what grades are. It doesn't matter. I'm in 7th grade. It shouldn't matter what the grades are. And I'm thinking, of course, projecting, well, it kind of does matter because you're a really bright kid. And if you don't have the right grades, because I've seen this with this is the experiences and the stories in our head, right? If you don't have the right grades, then you're not going to get into the honors classes next year, which you really need to be, and otherwise you will be bored out of your mind. So I really want you to keep your grades up because then they know that you're smart. Who are they to decide if he's smart or not, right? He's showing them what he feels like showing them, which is, I'm not putting effort in because you're not putting effort in, maybe. Or I'm not putting effort in because I'm not engaged. I am disengaged with learning right now, which I hate to say it, but I think that in remote learning right now, I'm hearing from a lot of parents, they're seeing the same thing with their kids. And there are a lot of kids that are on their phones. So here's the things that I can control, right? I noticed that when they're on the remote learning, sometimes they'll be, at least my younger son will be on the phone FaceTiming some of his friends while he's supposed to be in the class. So I took the phone away. I wasn't popular with that one. But I took the phone away because I said, listen, you need to be present for your classes. But then I observed and I watched a little bit of his class and I realized that there's only a little bit of time where the teacher is talking. The rest of the time is free time where they're supposed to be doing some of their work, but my son's done in 2 seconds. So I get it, right? I get it. I get why he's feeling like I don't need to be engaged. So this is the whole letting go part, just to circle back. We have to let go of our reaction to things, our expectation of things. We have to let go of holding so tightly to what we think things should be and resisting what truly is. and then thinking that we have to fix what's broken or what's not working. Because you know what? 9 times out of 10, it's not broken. Or we're not broken. The system is broken. And all we can do is fix ourselves and our reaction to things. That's all we can do. The only thing we have control over is ourselves. So what can we influence? Now, let's go back to the school thing. With my son, I did send an email to the teachers, and I just said, this is what I'm observing. My son, the light is slowly being snuffed out of my son. I know you guys are doing the best that you can, but are there any ways we can increase the engagement for these kids? Because it's really hard for them to be staring at a screen constantly. So I got an email back. And again, if I came in there confrontational, I wouldn't really get a positive response. But I wasn't confrontational. I was just telling them, this is what I'm noticing. This is what happened with my son. This is what I'm observing. This is what I've done at home. This is what I am willing to do. But I need help from your end. So what do you suggest? What can we do to get through? Because I understand we're still in the remote learning. Numbers are going up a little bit. At least in my area, the COVID numbers are on a little bit of a rise. So, and my school system has not at all gone back. Some of the school systems around have had hybrid. My school system has not gone back. It's been fully remote. So I don't expect, our governor said something about all the schools going back in January. I don't know. But again, this is where I can't demand that they bring my kids back into school. I can't control that. But I can have these conversations, and who knows, maybe by having these conversations and by me letting them know the effect that this remote learning is having on my son, maybe that might influence them to work harder at getting the kids in a hybrid situation. Or maybe it will influence the teachers to be a little bit more interactive or try to be a little bit more engaging with the kids. I don't know. But again, I can't control them. I can only control me. I can't control my son, but I can influence what he's doing. Hopefully this helps. So it's really hard to let go of trying to please others, trying to fix others. It's really hard to let go of worrying about what other people think. But I will say that when you start to just be aware of it and be aware of those things and then talk to yourself, you literally have to be aware of it and then work to shift your story in your head by asking yourself questions. This is a big part of what I teach in my Inside Out Healing program, is to question and to shift the way our mind is observing situations, to shift the way we perceive a situation by asking, is this true? Is it always true? When is it different? And then asking, is this stuff that I'm getting so churned up about, is it my stuff or is it other people? For example, when you get upset because somebody is treating you a certain way, if you know you haven't done anything wrong, that's not yours, that's theirs. Right? Like if I was abrupt with the person that on customer service that I was talking to because I was angry, because I was frustrated, I had to go out of my way, and I was frustrated at the situation. I may have taken it out on her. I hope I didn't, but I may have taken it out on her, and she might personalize it and be like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And she might be that might create stress, and she might kind of perseverate on that, like, why is this person talking to me? And can you believe? And then the story starts. Can you believe this woman? Blah, 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 blah. And then you just keep feeding that cycle, right? And that stress. Instead of just stopping and going, you know what? That lady's pissed off. I get it. But that's not mine. That's hers. And let it go. That is the key. Now, it's not easy. I'm not even going to pretend that it's easy because it's not. But the first step is the awareness piece. And when you're aware of when you get triggered, or like for me, when you're aware of like, oops, I'm going into fix-it mode. I can't fix this. This is not mine. This is my son's. Or this is not mine. This is my husband's. I can be there for them. I can support them. I can be present with them. I can hear them, but I can't fix it for them. Because when we take on that stuff, it creates so much stress, and it takes us out of our own presence and our own well-being and our own flow. So hopefully this is helpful. If anybody has any questions, I'm not seeing a ton of questions right now, but if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, ask me, shoot me a text if I can help you or you're struggling with something. Happy to have a call with you, because these are very challenging times. And one of the biggest things that I'm hoping November, no more worry, no more fear, no more resistance, because those are the things that bring us stress, and the stress is what throws us out of balance and takes us out of being present in our lives. So when we are open and we make room for being present in our lives, when we make room for allowing whatever's going to happen, when we make room for other people keeping their opinions to themselves and us knowing who we are and holding on to our own power and taking back control over our own health and happiness, that's what I want for 2021. I want to step into open heart, open mind, to receiving and flowing in life with more ease and grace. So this is what my hope is to help you guys do the same. All right? Okay, everybody. Well, have a good night. And again, reach out to me if there's any questions, concerns, if anything resonated with you and you want to share, by all means, please share. Otherwise, I will see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Have a great night, everyone.